I know that my D&D players are completely thrilled in a tense encounter when they ask each other, "Oh shit, what's gonna happen next?" Or, "For real? Are we gonna manage to prevent that?" But what is the best way to create suspense like that? It took me over 2 years as a DM testing and failing with different approaches until I found the key. VUCA. VUCA stands for Volatility, Uncertainty, Complexity, and Ambiguity. Let me share how I use them. An epic surprise in an encounter creates a major commotion at the game table, but it fades away in 3 minutes or so. Wouldn't it be great to keep players on the edge of their seats for 30 minutes? That's the power of suspense. Suppose we are in an encounter with the local lord. We know of his corruption schemes, but he doesn't suspect that. Unexpectedly, a messenger arrives telling him that we are undercover agents. That's a surprise. But what if we knew that the messenger was on his way? The encounter would already start under tension. Will we be able to get out before the messenger arrives? And what if he arrives, but the nobleman doesn't open the letter? The object of our demise would be right there, sitting in the room as we speak. Will the nobleman open it? Can we manage to fool him into not doing so? Could we get rid of the letter without raising suspicion? That's suspense. It fills us with gut-wrenching anticipation and prolongs that feeling for an entire encounter, session, or adventure. This playful interaction of what can happen in the near future and whether we can prevent it or not builds up an enormous amount of tension. That's a clear example of volatility. We know that the present situation is wildly unstable and what it can turn into. What creates suspense is precisely the fact that we're fully aware that everything can change in a few minutes, bringing fast and strong consequences. Can we defuse that bomb? That we don't know, but we do know the clock is ticking. When we use surprise, there's usually one big revelation at some point in our adventures, with not much happening in between. But if we choose to use suspense instead, we can keep our players engaged and scratching their heads along the whole adventure. A clever approach is to spread clues throughout the adventure. We can see the entire picture and have to put the pieces of the puzzle together along the way. If we do a good job, we will uncover several small revelations as we move ahead. These constant pieces of information, of course, provide answers but raise yet new questions, increasing the level of suspense and curiosity. And that's what makes suspense more powerful than surprise. Imagine that we're helping a revenant to avenge his and his sister's murder. At some point, we discover what was supposed to be his sister's corpse, but when he looks at her deathly remains, he whispers astonished, "That's not my sister." Sounds like a cool plot twist, a surprise, right? But what if, at the beginning of the story, the city marshal calls for our help to investigate the crime? He tells us that he received an unsigned letter saying that something is off and that we should find clues about that in the murderer's sister's chamber in the family's manor. There, we find a single painting decorating the room. It depicts the murdered sister in her teen years. An almost unnoticeable detail calls our attention. The girl has only 9 toes, as if her foot had been severed in some accident. We decide to investigate her crypt. We open her tomb, and there's the corpse, but with all 10 toes. It can't be her. That's an example of uncertainty. As the adventure starts, there's a hint that something is out of place, and we are aware that the information we have is incomplete. We can only speculate what lies ahead. As we find bits and parts of new information, we start to assemble the puzzle, but things get even weirder. We understand there's much more going on than we have yet figured out. Our growing curiosity and tense anticipation make us fully aware and fully involved with what's going on. Where is the truth? We can't tell for sure, but here's what we can tell. Expect the unexpected. Here's another way to build up suspense. Don't hide anything from your players. And I'm dead serious about that. Consider this situation. Our party is currently with Raedra, Queen in Exile. She's been our patron in previous quests, but we cultivate a tense relationship with her. She's not a bad person, but our party is really skeptical of the monarchic regime. Well, be careful with what you wish for. It just so happened that a coup overthrew the crown while Queen Raedra was away from the capital. Here's the catch. The new regime is keeping the Queen Mother prisoner in her own castle. We know her, we like her, but her imprisonment is exactly what is preventing a full-out civil war. And of course, rescuing her is exactly what Queen Raedra is asking us to do. We talk to all the people we know and trust to ponder our options. We could do nothing, but that would sentence the Queen Mother for life, or worse, and end our relationship with Raedra. We could take action and risk turning into criminals hunted by the Republic. We could try a diplomatic solution. Some of us even suggest we should snitch on Queen Raedra's location to the Republic. One thing soon becomes clear to us. A flawed regime with a decent leader was replaced by a better regime with a flawed leader. There is no clear solution, only tough choices. That's an example of complexity. See for yourself, all pieces are on the board. There is no hidden information. We can calculate future scenarios, and yet, how should we proceed? When we create dilemmas, a great deal of suspense is created by the player's own decisions and actions. What consequences are we willing to face? Are we about to do something really wrong and stupid? The right amount of complexity involves us in a challenging puzzle. There are so many moving parts, and the stakes are so high that we gotta think together at every step. Small decisions become important. Worse, it keeps us wondering whether our assumptions will play out as we anticipated. But it's not only through complexity that it's possible to create suspense with full disclosure of information. Most of an adventure's story is presented by NPCs. What if they are biased by their own perceptions, opinions, and agendas? After 10 years of peace, the kingdom of Cormyr is again on the brink of war. A barbarian horde of orcs loom on the storm horns, ready to strike, but their forces are yet split in two. Our quest is to move behind enemy lines and gather intel. The Purple Dragon's leadership is divided. We talk to Oversword Gantoril, an exiled dwarf who has fought the orcs in the past. He argues the Purple Dragons should advance position right away and strike while the enemy is still divided. He thinks that the humans of Cormyr underestimate the power of the orcs, just like they underestimate any other species. Then we talk to Battlemaster Marlee, Lord Commander of the Purple Dragons. He's certain that their best move is to stay put, as their current location provides an enormous tactical advantage against the orcs. He argues that Oversword Gantoril's urge to advance is nothing but the burning desire for revenge of a hot-headed dwarf. That's an example of ambiguity. We have all information, but it's open to two or more conflicting interpretations. What will happen depends upon what is factual, but it's impossible to distinguish it from what are merely biased opinions. Under ambiguity, what creates suspense is the lurking danger within the possible outcomes. Our anticipation of unveiling the mystery behind the curtain fosters our engagement. Right now, we don't know which version is correct, but here's what we know. The truth is out there, somewhere, and we can find it. I love to see my players thrilled in a tense encounter. I learned to build suspenseful encounters using the VUCA acronym. Volatility. Events may change very quickly. Uncertainty. You might not have the whole picture. Complexity. You have to think your decisions through. And ambiguity. NPCs' points of view may be questionable. If that's useful for you, subscribe and follow our social networks for more content. All links are in the description below. Thanks for sharing your time with us. We are the Deep Dice Press.